with an update on TV rights negotiations between AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery and more. This is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Rambles with notifications on, and don't forget to like the video. After being attacked on WWE programming by Kevin Owens, Tanga Loa can be seen wearing an eye patch in this clip. Speaking of those, in the Bloodline, there seems to be another potential member, with Ringside News writing Hikuleo, a veteran of New Japan Pro Wrestling, has officially joined WWE. According to Fightful Select, Hikuleo wrapped up his tenure with NJPW a month ago, dropping the NJPW Strong Tag Team titles. Since then, he had not been seen in action, fueling speculation about his departure. It was previously reported that Hikuleo's contract with NJPW was set to expire in June, with expectations that he would leave the company. This speculation has now been confirmed, with WWE sources revealing that Hikuleo has indeed joined the company, although no specific start date has been provided to Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp. Hikuleo's move to WWE follows in the footsteps of his brothers Tama Tonga and Tanga Loa, who joined WWE in recent months. WWE's interest in Haku's sons was first reported back in January of 2023, a fact later confirmed by Hikuleo in an interview. However, Vince McMahon's return to WWE and an impending merger caused an informal hiring freeze, delaying the formal signing of Hikuleo. Despite these challenges, Hikuleo re-signed with NJPW for another year before ultimately making the transition to WWE. Revealing why she would want to revive the WWE Divas title, Chelsea Green told Ring the Bell. Well, first of all, because that's the thing, it's a controversial take and everybody's talking. I think that's what people don't understand is when you tweet about me, you're doing me a favor. You are making me go viral, so that's what's happening. For more details on the new character on AEW Collision, Ringside News noted that AEW is gearing up for another debut. Hologram is set to make its first appearance on AEW television very soon, even though the teases haven't been around for long. This debut has been part of AEW's plans for a while. It was previously reported that Aramis would be playing the role, despite online speculation about Sammy Guevara or Ricochet. Neither Guevara nor Ricochet is planned for the role, but both are expected to appear on AEW television soon. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reports that this character has been discussed internally for quite some time. One talent even mentioned hearing about it last year. AEW trademarked the name last year. Little is known about the character, except that it will be unique to AEW. One source described it as technologically ambitious. For those unfamiliar with Aramis, he has worked at GCW multiple times since 2021 and was with AAA for several years until earlier this year. After recently revealing that he is no longer under a WWE non-compete clause and is a free agent, Jinder Mahal would turn up in Game Changer Wrestling. Here's the clip.
Look at the size! Are you? And plants Effie! Is that? Is the Maharaja! Raj Desi! What the hell is he doing at Pops, Dave? Raj Desi here in GCW! The Maharaja is here!
Asked if he had issues from WWE given he previously joined AEW, Mark Henry had this to say to Forbes: "Not at all. I had a conversation with Vince McMahon and I wanted WWE to hire me, and he said that we have people that have applied for the jobs that you are applying for, and he felt like it would show favoritism to give me one of those jobs. And I hadn't put the work in to receive one of those jobs, so I had to leave to get that experience. And I told him, I was like, you know, I'm going to kick your ass." And he was like, "I have no doubt whatsoever, and I know how hard you work." And he said, "When the day comes, I'm sure that we'll be the first ones trying to get you back." Also, Mark Henry was asked about the prospect of pro wrestling becoming an Olympic sport, to which he replied, "And I was able to master how to make people love me by being me, and I made people hate me about being the opposite of me. And there are actors that they have trouble putting it down. Once you get into character, sometimes you almost believe that you are the character. And when I was on screen, I was that person, and I had to have people give checks and balances. Every referee that I was ever in the ring with used to have to tell me, 'Mark, breathe.' I would forget to breathe. I would be so angry. So when you take yourself to a place where you emotionally get invested, people didn't have a choice but to believe me, because what they saw was the truth." Pro wrestling fans will have to tune into their favorite promotions during the Olympics if they want to catch any action. Amateur wrestling has been an Olympic sport since the early days, but pro wrestling will remain out of contention despite the hopes of some fans. Announcing a match featuring a WWE star for his Bloodsport event, Josh Barnett wrote this on X: "Two Matt grapplers set to lock up and go hold for hold, submission to submission, catch to catch." Dempsey proved he belonged in Bloodsport in his last outing, capturing victory in a hard-fought match with Matt Makowski. Isaacs has been a staple of Bloodsport and was trading hold for hold with submission wizard Minoru Suzuki last time. Both are on the rise and both want a souvenir to hang on the wall, a limb taken from a defeated opponent. Charlie Dempsey versus Royce Isaacs at Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 14. The lineup for the event is as follows: Shayna Baszler versus Miyu Yamashita, Julius Creed versus Matt Makowski, Brutus Creed versus Tom Lawler, Mike Santana versus Homicide, Josh Woods versus Timothy Thatcher, Mike Bailey versus Akira, Charlie Dempsey versus Royce Isaacs, and Masha Slamovich versus Jody Threat. Recalling a painful experience where she dealt with an ectopic pregnancy, AEW star Saraya said this to Broad Ideas with Rachel Bilson and Olivia Allen: "I do want kids. I actually went through an ectopic pregnancy before with him, Ronnie Radke. It scared the out of him too, because let me tell you this story. These freaking doctors, they scare the out of you for no reason." So Ronnie's on tour, and we had cameras all around the house, inside the house, because at this point there's fans, his fans and my fans, that kept finding us, so we were just like cameras all over the house. They were insane, and so luckily we did have them through, because Ronnie was on his last day of the tour, and luckily it was somewhere like San Diego. Pretty close, right? And I just got this awful pain in my stomach, and then all of a sudden all of this blood started coming out and I couldn't even stand up. My stomach ballooned up. It was really bad, and so I was crawling on the floor and I was screaming, and there was no one there. I was like, I don't know what is gonna happen. So Ronnie saw that I wasn't answering the phone, looked on the cameras, saw me on the ground, calls an ambulance, books a flight, comes directly home, but the ambulance comes and then I crawl myself out the front door and I'm puking too. It was insane. It was just every hole was like, it was terrifying. I crawl out, the door closes behind me and it locks, so I'm like, oh, I can't get back in again. So then the ambulance people come, the doctors come, and they try and go around the back, and then they saw I have Lobster. Lobster is a pit bull, so they were too scared to to go inside. They were like, do you think you can crawl through the doggy door? And I'm like, so I crawl through the doggy door, bleeding. There's a lot of blood, by the way. There was a lot of blood. I crawl through, I unhooked the door because they needed to get my ID and everything like that. Whatever it is they needed to get from me in those circumstances, they could have taken me straight to the hospital. It was bad, so it started off kind of wacky. So then I get there and they put me in a little hallway while I'm just bleeding out, and then they rush me into this room. I have people everywhere. This woman that's going into my freaking crotch trying to clean everything out, trying to see, and I'm just in pain and screaming. No, I didn't know I was pregnant. No, I had no idea. With endometriosis, they told me that it would be really difficult to even have kids in the first place. So I had no idea. So then this doctor, I've been there for a couple of hours at this point. Ronnie finally gets here. Well, just before he gets here, actually, because I call him about this, but the female doctor was like, yeah, something bad is happening. It's like an ectopic pregnancy. And I was like, oh my God, am I gonna die? And she was just like, it's okay to cry. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, what does that mean? Am I gonna die? And I call Ronnie. I was like, I think I'm gonna die. I'm having ectopic pregnancy. And he's crying and she's not telling me I'm not gonna die. She's just like, it's okay to cry. It's okay. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm freaking out. So she leaves, and then a couple hours later, Ronnie's here. This other doctor comes in. I was like, you're a different doctor. And she was just like, how you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm gonna die. She's like, no, you're not. She was like, what are you talking about? She was like, you're here, you're fine, but you're having an ectopic pregnancy, so we just have to get you into surgery, get everything fixed. But she was like, you're fine. She was like, why do you think you're gonna die? I was like, that woman. She was like, that's a student medic. She shouldn't have even said anything to you. She's not allowed to give you diagnosis. She's not allowed to do any of these things, so she shouldn't be even talking to you. So then I feel better. I go into surgery pretty much then and there. Come out, I stay overnight. Everything's fine. Ronnie wasn't allowed to stay, and luckily the hospital's really close to our house at the time. Actually, it wasn't too far from here. We used to live around here too, and so he comes back in the morning and he didn't want to wait for them to come and see if I was okay, so he puts me in the wheelchair and just runs me out of the hospital to our house. I was like, that's fine, just get me out of here. I hate hospitals, but he hates hospitals too. He's like, you're fine, and I'm like, I don't know, my ass, it's just hanging out, Providing an update on Dalton Castle following his loss to Roderick Strong in AEW Collision that aired on the 13th, president of the company, Tony Khan, said some injury news that's forced changes to the plans for this Friday's ROH Death Before Dishonor, Khan tweeted. Dalton Castle was injured in his Saturday night AEW Collision bout last week versus Roderick Strong. Sadly, Dalton will be out of action for the remainder of 2024. Get well soon, DC. Explaining why he was at first hesitant to join his brother Matt in TNA Wrestling, Jeff Hardy said this regarding his return to the promotion, telling Wrestle Binge, when Matt first showed up in TNA, my wife called me in the bathroom and said, did you know Matt was going to TNA? I said no, I had no idea. Then I watched the footage. Oh my God. And to myself, I speak with my soul. I said, there's no way we're going back to TNA. But then I just let it dwell. I thought about it, and then I was like, oh my God, wait a minute. I had a lot of cool moments in TNA. I created a lot of great memories in TNA. During that same interview, Matt Hardy addressed him and his brother Jeff making a return to WWE during their run with TNA Wrestling. In wrestling, never say never. And I will say that the NXT Tag Team titles are not on our list of titles that we've won. So we are interested in that. And I think this crossover between NXT and TNA is great. It's exciting, it's unpredictable, and I think that's a positive for the business and the industry. When it comes to WWE's interest in an independent wrestler, Ringside News wrote that the pro wrestling world is always happy to jump on any new talk about contracts, as fans love seeing fresh faces around to mix things up. We have an update about one UK star who may be on WWE's radar. Since WWE Clash at the Castle last month, fans have wondered if WWE is pursuing Riho, staple of the UK scene and the Progress Women's World Champion. She was part of a group of talent invited to visit the WWE Performance Center as previously reported. It was reported on Fightful Select that Corey Brennan has asked around in the UK and in NXT about WWE's potential interest in Riho and if any deal was discussed at Clash at the Castle. The status is still up in the air and could go either way. According to sources close to Rio, no deal was offered or discussed at the event, nor has there been any other communication on that. However, Riho would be open to an offer from WWE and already has a US visa, with plans for a stint in the US coming up. For the latest on AEW's TV rights negotiations with Warner Bros. Discovery, Ringside News noted that AEW has experienced significant developments in the last 5 years, including changes in talent signings, production values, and more. Recent rumors suggested that AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery had finalized a deal, and the validity of these rumors has now been confirmed to some extent. Warner Bros. Discovery has played a crucial role as the broadcaster for AEW's flagship programs including Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision. This successful partnership has been so influential that AEW Dark was discontinued on YouTube, allowing AEW to focus solely on the network's platforms. Under Tony Khan's leadership, AEW has cultivated a vital working relationship with Warner Bros. Discovery. Many believe that AEW will be able to secure a new media rights deal with WBD soon. Journalist BJ Bethel recently took to Twitter to claim that AEW has an agreement in principle with Warner Bros. Discovery for a new television deal. Sources: AEW has an agreement in principle with WBD for a new TV deal. WBD's exclusive negotiation window was set to expire this coming weekend. No word on when it will be official. While speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer reported that although there has been talk of the deal being close, he has not yet received confirmation that it is finalized. The situation has been described as being close in principle for weeks, with the deal being in the red zone, meaning it is very near completion but not yet finalized. I've heard they are close but have not received confirmation that the deal is done. So that's kind of where we are at. We have known they've been close for weeks. In principle, close. In the red zone, it's kind of all the same. It's close, it's not finalized. I know it was not finalized yesterday. If it happens any day now, it wouldn't surprise me. I've said that the last 6 weeks or longer that it could happen any day. A positive sign regarding AEW securing a deal with Warner Bros. Discovery recently emerged as AEW content started appearing on Max outside the US. This indicates progress in the negotiations. Fans are eagerly awaiting the official announcement, which could define the future of AEW. The potential new deal with Warner Bros. Discovery could be a significant step forward for AEW, ensuring continued growth and expanded reach for the promotion. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.